page. So you're going to click create a new app. So what we are going to do in this particular app is that we are going to create an app which actually takes data from an online cloud. So in this for this particular app, we are going to use Google Spreadsheet. Your spreadsheet is actually on cloud, right? It's not here. So which means when some data is there in the cloud, it's not saved in your local handphone. So which means your app can always have access to that data in the cloud. So if you install that app in any phone, because the app is actually reading the data from an cloud, all the app will have the same data because the source is the same. But let's say if you save the data into your phone and you have the same app on your friend's phone, when you want to retrieve the data, only the app in your phone will be able to have access to the data, not the app from the other phone, because you have saved the data locally. So there are a few ways that you can actually save data. One is, of course, locally in your own handphone memory, which is only accessible to you. Your app can only be can access to the data, and those data are actually stored in your own phone, right? Then you can also store it into a database, an online database, and also cloud. So there are various ways that you can actually store. And also another one is you're only using the data while you're using the app. Meaning to say that you are reserving some memory location while you are using the app. When you close the app, the memory is cleared. The local saving is you are saving it into your local memory, so it stays in your local memory. Even though you close the app, whatever data that you save is there, but it will occupy your phone's memory, whatever file size. Then the third one is, of course, cloud. So we are going to use on the cloud aspect. So we're going to use a spreadsheet. So let's say the project name is so let's put as Thunkable spreadsheet. So category, you can just choose any category. And make sure, this is the important one, the use drag and drop builder, make sure it is not checked. Don't tick. Make sure it is not ticked or not checked. Is everyone okay up to this point? Can we create? So let's create. So we have created. Then we are now in our Thunkable workspace. Is everyone in our Thunkable workspace? No? What happened? Sorry? It is slow. But you managed to create? Why? So the app that we're doing is going to retrieve the data from Thunkable, from a spreadsheet. So we need to create that spreadsheet first, right? So in order for us to do that, open up a new tab. Then you can see on the top right corner, you'll see the Google Apps are there, right? So you can actually go to your sheets, right? Your sheets. So click on the sheets. And once you are at your sheets, you want to create a new spreadsheet. Okay, you want to click a new spreadsheet. So everyone just click on a new spreadsheet. And here you have a new spreadsheet. So first, let's give some name. So this spreadsheet, what we're going to do is we are going to put some places around Unit 10. So maybe we can put Unit 10 places. You can put any names also. It doesn't matter. But you need to have a name. Yes, someone raise your hand. Is everyone okay? Everyone's okay? So we are going to create our own database. Of course, in the upcoming, after your talk, we will do another one more session. How can we actually use the Google's database? It's known as the Firebase. You can actually use that Firebase. It's free. How can we do that? We'll see that after that. Everyone okay? So we are going to create, so you can see now it's empty, the sheet one. So we are going to create the first one. We just type as the place. The second one, we can name it as image. Third one, we can say as the description of the place. The fourth one, this is the latitude, the coordinate. So if you are put in full, this is latitude and this is longitude. So we have how many columns? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 columns, right? So assuming that the first place that we want to put is, let's say maybe is decentrum. Example, you can actually put any place also. Then let's say the other one we put sports arena. Then all of you are very studious students, so let's put Unit 10 library. Is everyone okay? So image will come in a short while. This description, you can give whatever description that you want because we will use this description later in our app. So let's say decentrum, we will say food and stores, sports arena, sports activities. So this one we can put as studying resources. Everyone can see the screen right in front. All okay? Now we still need to fill the image latitude and longitude because all this data we're going to use in our mobile app. So let's open up another new tab. So let's search for decentrum. This is for the image. Decentrum. I'm going to go to images. Okay, there are several images that are here. So let's say I want to use what? This one? This is nice. Okay, let's say I'm choosing this particular image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this image and I'm going to copy the image address. Remember, not copy the link address, copy the image address. So click on copy image address and go to here and you paste it. Okay. So if you want to be sure your link is correct, if you open a new tab, if you paste, it should come an image like this. That means your image link is correct. If you open a new tab in your browser and you paste the link, it should come up like this, an image. If you're not coming, then the link is not correct. Is that okay? So this is how you can actually test. Let's go to the second one spot. Everyone's okay with the decentrum? Let's say, oh wait, while we are at decentrum, we can also click on the maps. Now again, I'm telling, if you're lost, just raise your hand and just let me know. So I'm going to click on the maps. What we're going to do in the maps is we're going to find what is the GPS location. So where decentrum, this is decentrum, right? This one. This is decentrum. So maybe this whole building is decentrum. So maybe I just, if you point your cursor anywhere and if you right click, do you see that the top one, there is the GPS coordinate? So just click on that, it automatically will copy. So go back here and go under the latitude and you paste. But when you paste, it pastes the latitude and the longitude as well. So the first one is the latitude. The second one is the longitude. So I'm just going to highlight the second one, the longitude, and I'm going to cut. And I'm going to paste in the longitude. And of course, I'm going to remove the comma so that it has value. The latitude and the longitude. Everyone's able to get? Anyone has any issues? So we're going to do something similar with the sports arena as well. So now, let me go back. So we're going to click on, let's see, Uniten Sports Arena. Okay, this is Uniten Sports Arena. So let's say, okay, maybe I'll just look at this image. So I'm going to choose this one as a sports arena image. So again, right click, copy image address. You try to paste it on a browser. Are you able to get just the image? Yes, you're able to get image. So that you're going to paste it here. And the same thing you are going to do, go to maps. So this is sports arena. So it already has a pin, right? So let's say I'm going to right click. I'm going to click on this GPS coordinate. It's copied. And I'm going to paste it here also. But I'm going to cut the longitude. I'm going to put a longitude. Then I'm going to paste. I need to make sure I remove the comma. And finally, the Uniten library. Go back. Uniten library. So have the first image here. I'm going to do the same, copy image address. Test it on a new browser. Yes, you're able to get. And paste it here. Again, you want to try to get the GPS location. So click on the map. So this is Uniten library. So maybe I'm going to click here. Okay, done. So we are done with our spreadsheet database. We have created our own database actually. Everyone done? I'm going to pause the recording. When you're actually done with the creating your own spreadsheet, you have the names here. So now let's go to the Thunkable. So now when we go to the Thunkable, in the first screen, we will use a component known as the data list viewer. So if you go under the components tab, the right hand side, on the left hand side, sorry. Under the components tab, you will see what is known as the data viewer list. So if you click on the question mark here, the data viewer list component allows you to add, view, and click on items in a configurable list layout. So that means this is a data viewer. You are able to view a data in the form of a list. So let's drag and drop this in our first screen. So when you drag and drop it on the first screen, you will be able to see the property of the data viewer list. Sorry? Okay? Is everything okay? So when you add the data viewer list, the first thing it asks you to do is we need to select a data source. You see? You have to select a data source. So click add on the data source. So don't worry, you won't have any data sources now, right? It's empty. Am I correct? Yours is empty. So click on create new. So when you want to create new, so take note that Thunkable is able to work with all these options, meaning you can create your own table. That means you can create your own spreadsheet locally itself. Or you can use Airtable. Have you heard of Airtable before? That's also another app that allows you to store data, Google Sheet, and also Webflow. So which one we are using or going to use? Google Sheets, right? So click on Google Sheet. So you can actually give a name. You're going to create a data source now. You're going to create your own data source. So you can name it as unit 10 places also, no problem. And it asks two questions. Which row are your columns headers in? By default is 1. So what it means is that your row 1 here is the header, right? Is the header of your data, places, images, description. And the data actually starts from row 2 onwards. So that is what it's actually asking. Which is the first row containing the data. So this you don't have to do any changes. By default is that. Then you need to select a sheet. So if you click on select a sheet, of course it asks you to choose your account. So now it asks you to select. So you have already have the unit 10 places, right? So click on that. And then you can click select. So once you have selected, then you just click on create. So you can see now your data source has been added here. Data source has been added. And by default, the table is sheet 1. There's only sheet 1. It automatically detects how many sheet. So you only have sheet 1. It says that click here to view the data. There's an option to click here to view the data. So if you click here, then you're able to see, right? So correct. This is your data, right? This is give a snapshot of your data. Now there is one thing known as the list item layout. This one, you can actually select. There are few, how you want each row to look like. But remember, this is the data viewer list, right? Currently, it is in which layout? The first one, I think. Title and subtitle. So what we can actually do is, for example, let's say, for example, we can choose this one. It has some image, title and subtitle. This layout. So I'm going to click this one. So this layout allows us to see the image, the title and the subtitle, for example. Or maybe we just use the image and title. How many lists do we have? Or am I? We can also put image, title, subtitle. So that means when we use this layout, automatically it asks for data binding. If you look at this layout, there are three items. One is the image, one is the title, the third is the subtitle, right? So when you choose this layout, it'll ask you the data bindings, where to get this data for each one of these field from. So for example, they see asks for picture, text, and also this is title and subtitle get from which column. So pictures, if you click now, automatically are you able to see all the columns header here? Because you've added the data sources, right? So this one picture should be which one? Image. The title property, place. Subtitle, description. So now try this on your Thunkable Live app on your phone. Let me pause the recording for a while. We are going to, so in the first screen is going to have the list, right? Now we want to actually add another screen where we can see the images in much more better and also see the description. Of course, now we just put a description very short only, right? But let's add another one more screen. So when you click on the screen on top here, there is a plus sign. So just click and select a blank screen. So you click next. So this screen 2, now you can see the property. You can edit this screen 2. You can make it as the info screen. So you can name it as the info screen. Is that okay? And we can also add another one more screen, blank screen again. And this screen we can name it as the map screen. To the map. Okay, so we have 3 screens. Screen 1 is our default one. So let's say screen 1 is our home screen. So the screen 1 is our home screen. We have our info screen. We have our map screen. So what happens is from the home screen, when we click any one of it, we want it to go to the info screen. So for us to see the full image and also see what is the description. So that's the idea. Is that okay? Now, in order for us to actually do that, so now under the home screen, is everyone okay? So under the home screen, let's go to block. So what we want to do is, whenever we click on the item, there are 3, right? Some of you have 4, some of you have 5. Whenever you click on it, we want it to be navigated to the next page, right? We want it to be navigated to the next page and show the full image. Just now you just can see the image small only, right? So we want to see the full image, we want to see the full description. That's what we actually want to see. So now, because we are using in our home screen, the only component that we have is the data viewer list. So you can already see the data viewer list is here. So we are going to see all those functions associated or affiliated with the data viewer list. So click on this. So you are able to see the first one. When data viewer list item is clicked, do something. So this is the function that we want to do. Whenever the particular item is clicked, we want it to do something. So drag and drop this. Now you notice something, that there is one thing known as the row ID. So see, the description is pull out this block to reference the result of the item click event. Note that this block should be only used in the do section below. So you want to actually use it here, the do section. You just can drag and drop it here. Now what is this row ID? What is this row ID? So here in your spreadsheet is based on row, right? Every row here actually has its own ID. So this 2, 3, 4 is not the row ID. That's not the row ID. Okay, maybe in the next session or things like that, actually I can show you how the row ID looks something long, something like this. It's a very long ID. It's not a simple ID, it's a unique ID. For every row, there's a unique ID. You just can't see here. But there's a way of seeing. When you actually display the data, you'll be able to see the row ID. So what I want you to know is every row has a unique ID. It's generated, it looks something like this, the top one, right? You see the long, so it has something like that, an ID. It's not a simple 1, 2, 3 like that. It has a unique ID. So that is the ID that is been captured here. So we want to actually capture this ID, and we need to also store it in a local variable. So in order for us to use the ID, to reference to the ID, we need to have a variable that we can actually use. So let us create a variable. So in order for us to create a variable, there is already a built-in functions on the left-hand side, right? So you see on the variables. So if you click on variables, there is initialize app variable. So drag that one and put it here. So this is, if you click on this drop down, you'll see there are 3 options: app, stored, and cloud. App means this variable is only created during the usage of the app. It will utilize some memory space. After the app is closed, it will clear back. The second one is stored, which means whatever this app, whatever variable that you create, that variable will be stored in your phone memory. That is stored. And the third is cloud. So whatever variable that you create, it will be stored in the cloud. So we are just going to use the app variable is sufficient. So now we're going to give a name. So let's say that we give this as the place ID. So this variable you can see like a container, like a Tupperware. So this place ID will, if you open this place ID, inside you'll see the row ID. So that's what we want to do. This variable is like a container. It stores value. So initially we want to initialize it to become empty string. So how do we actually initialize it to be empty string? You see under the text, the fourth one, there is a block for empty string. So drag and drop it, put it here. So I'm sure that you all have learned C programming, right? You all currently learning. So when you want to actually initialize a variable, you need to initialize it to a particular value, right? either 0, 1 or something, some value you need to initialize it to when you want to create a variable. So similarly, that's what we're actually doing here. We are creating a variable, but the nature of the variable is it's only created when you're while you're using the app only. And the name of the variable is place ID, and you're initializing it to 0. So now so everyone okay? Any question up to this point? Anything you don't understand, let me know. So now when we click on the particular item, it could be any row, right? I mean, in the list, let's say you have 3, you could click on any one of it, right? So whichever item that you click, that item's row ID, we want to capture it into our variable. So again, you go to variable, there is set app variable place ID. See, automatically now it comes set app variable place ID. Why? Because we have initialized one variable known as place ID, right? So automatically it comes. So if you click drop down, also you can only see one. You only have one variable, place ID. So what do we want to set the place ID to? Row ID. So drag and drop it here. So these are all the things that you want to do in the first screen. When you click on that particular item, you want to capture that row ID and you want to actually store it into the place ID. And then what you want to do? You want it to go to the next page, right? Which is the info screen. So for info to navigate, that comes under control. Under control, you see the first block, which is navigate. So drag and drop it, put it here. So where do we want to navigate to? Which screen? Which screen do we want to navigate to? Info screen. So click on the drop down, you can see info screen. So this one, excuse me, just to bring it up. So again, going through what is the block function in the first one. When data viewer lists item, there are 3 items, right? Any one of the item you click, what happens? You will actually capture the row ID into your place ID variable, and then you will navigate to the next screen. So now can you test your Thunkable Live app? Does it go to the next screen? It goes to the next screen, but it's empty. Next screen is empty, right? So everyone okay? So that is all that currently up to this point that we want to do on the home screen. Now we are going to go to the info screen. Is everyone okay? So under the info screen, we just dragged and dropped the image component into the info screen. And then we just change the height and width to 200, but you can change it to whatever size that you want it to. Next, we want to actually drag and drop label, 2 labels. Oh wait, before that, let's go under the property of this image and let's rename this as place image. Place image. So don't have to do anything on the file source. So next we scroll up, you will see on the, we want to include the label. Where's the label? Yeah, this one, and below the button that's label. You want to drag and drop. So it actually coming on top of the image, but I want the label to be below the image. So under the component tree here on the left hand side, you can drag and bring it below. So we also want to add another label. So there's 2 labels. So drag and drop. So you have label. So when you click on label 1, which is the first one, this label 1 we can actually change it. This one can be the place label. This is the place label. The second label, if you click label 2, this one we can change it as the description label. Now, okay, click back on the place label. So you can see the text that it will be displayed is name of place. Don't worry about the text. This text will change later. It will be changed later automatically when we write our block. And the second label, this is the place description. Currently, I didn't put any margin in between and things like that because I don't know how it will appear, right? So later when we see in our Thunkable Life, if you don't like, if it's too close, then what we can do, we can add margin, right? On top, we can add margin. So we can actually do that. Is it okay? Everyone okay? Now we are going to add the functionality to this so that we can actually view the place. So let's go to the block. So this one is when actually from the home screen, when you navigate to this info screen, so there is one option which is known as, where is it? When the screen opens, that if you go under info screen component down there, info screen, when you click on that, there is this block known as when info screen opens. That means when it's navigated to the screen and when the screen opens, what you want it to show. So that's why we have this when the screen opens. So drag and drop this. So when the screen opens, what you want to show? You want to actually all these three, the image, the place label, the place description. You want to change it to whatever that you have actually captured, right, from the earlier, from your Google Spreadsheet. So if you look here, there is, this is why we need to label our components correctly. So let's say the place image. So what we want to do, you want to use this function, set the place image pictures to. What do you want to set it to? So drag and drop it, put it here. The same thing you want to do with the place label. You want to set the place labels text to what? So put it here. Same thing also with the description. You want to set the description label text to what? Again, put it here. Okay, so far? Now, where are we going to get all these data values from? From our data source. So when you click on data source, do you see this one? Get value from. So we are going to use this block. Drag and put it here. Then you can actually duplicate. Put it for second, duplicate, put it for the third also. So here is where you need to make sure you select the right thing. Of course, get value from unit and places, that is correct. Sheet 1 is correct. Is this correct? In place. Is this header correct? You have to change it to image, right? Same thing with places. This is the place label. So this is correct. Place is the name of the place, right? Description is under description. What else do you think that we need to do here? Do you see this for row ID? It will get value from unit and places, which is your spreadsheet, in sheet 1 in image column. But for which row ID? Where do we get this row ID from? What did we do here? What did we do here regarding the row ID? Do you understand my question? What did we do to the row ID here in the home screen? Sorry? What did we do with the row ID? You all said you all understood what we did. So I'm asking you, what did we do with the row ID? When you click on a particular item, what do we do? Take the row ID and save it where? Sorry? Empty string is the initialization. What is this? This one. Okay, I'm stop recording. We are in the info screen. Where do we get this ID from? Yes, the place ID variable, right? So if you click on variables, you already will be able to see app variable place ID. So you just need to drag and drop it here. So now, when you click on a particular item in your home screen, when it goes, it will capture that ID of that particular item. Let's say the item is unit and library. So you'll capture that row ID of that and it'll store in place ID. So when the info screen opens, it will get the picture, text, and also description from image, place, and description of which ID of that unit and library row ID which you have given here. So when you click, you will be able to see that. So try in your app. So you'll be able to see something like this. It'll be, if I click unit and library, so the info screen will show me the full. Able to get? All good? So just that now when you look at your description, if you want to make your image larger or the text is too close, you can actually go back to the design. And if you click on the image or things like that, you can change the absolute size to 110 or what, 250. So you can change, and then you can actually include the margin. So where I can add the top margin, say 10%. And maybe for this one, the font style for the name of place, maybe I'll make the font weight as bold. And for the place description, maybe I'll add top margin of 10. And maybe this one, I'll make the font style as italic. So now if I try back, it's okay, much better on my phone. There's a space between the picture. Sports arena, I choose the main place is actually bold. And the description comes in italic font. Gradually try to improve on all these things. So you can see when you are in this page, the issue is that you're stuck on this page, right? So let us actually put one option button to actually go back to the home screen. So we'll go to the design back. So under the design, we want to add a button. So let's click on the button. So the button, I just want to keep it at the bottom. So I'm going to drag and drop it. So this button, let's rename this as the home button. Okay, sorry. Oh, okay. Okay, this is a simple one. This is, you're going to put home. So you can change the color and things like that. So no problem. I'm just going to add a top margin a little bit. So when you click this, it should bring you back to the home screen. Simple button. Okay, added the button. Then we go to the blocks. So when you go to the block, you can see there is a home button here. So when you click on home button, that is when home button is clicked, what do you want to do? So take and put it here. When home button is clicked, we want to navigate to new screen. So it's under control. Hold on now. Actually have the home button. Now test your app and see. So you go back to the Thunkable Spreadsheet. Then if you click any one of it, you're able to see the image, and then there's a home button. So if you click on home, it brings you back. So now you have interaction between these two pages, right? So I can actually do that. All okay, good so far? Now we can also add another one more button to go to next. Next means we can browse through the entire list of all the items without going back to the earlier page, home button. So just by already we're here, let's say we just want to click next. How do we actually do that? So of course we need to add another button, next button. So let's go back to the design. So we're going to add another button, which is the next button. Wait. So this is a button I want it to be on top of home. So this one we can name it as the next button. So the text, hold on. As next, then I just going to put arrow something like this. Then maybe this one I change color, something else, some other color, and maybe I want to also add the top margin. And so I'm not going through so much of the cosmetic part. The cosmetic part you can actually explore on your own, how to beautify it or to make it nicer. Just going to look in terms of the functionality. So you're going to have the next function. Now, whenever we're looking at this, here is some things that we actually have to really try to understand when we want to do the blocks part. Okay, so we have this. So what we actually want to do now is when we actually click next, it's supposed to go to the next row ID, next row ID, next row ID, right? But the issue here is we never captured that information. We only captured the information that whenever we click on that particular item, only that item's row ID is captured, right? That's the only thing we're doing. We are not capturing the whole thing. So now under the info screen, what we're actually going to do is we are going to try to capture the entire list ID. So in that way, when we have a local variable that has all the ID with the index. So meaning to say that, let me just make it smaller a bit. So there are two things here. So one is the index. So what we want to do is we want to capture all the. Now you can't really see that because. So we want to get the row ID 1, ID 2, 3. All these row IDs are unique. They are very, very long. So it's difficult for us to make it as an index. But what we can do, we can create a list, a variable list. So variable list means it has a list of items. So we can create a variable list of row IDs. So it has all the 3 row IDs with the index. So index, let's say we have index 0, index 1, index 2. When you have index, it's easier for you to keep track, right? When you have index like this, 0, 1, 2, it's easier for you to actually manage because you know row ID 1 is index 0, row ID 2 is index 1, row ID 3 is index 3. So instead of using the actual row ID value, which is quite long, it's difficult for you to manipulate this list. But if you do in terms of index, yes, you can. If currently we are in index 0, if you want to go to the next index, what do? Plus 1 to the index. So when we plus 1, we get index 1. So what we are using this index to get this value. Is that okay? So this is what we are going to try to do now. So let us create an empty variable. So we're going to initialize an app variable. So this one, let's call this as the ID list. This one, we are going to create this the ID list. Okay, another thing I forgot, this is the program. The index value always start for 1 for Thunkable. In Python programming, the index always starts with 0. So we're going to create a variable ID list, and we're going to, this is, earlier we actually did a normal string. Now we want to actually create a variable list variable. So it has several lists. So if you go under list here, so there is an empty list. There's a block to create empty list. So you're going to create an empty list. And we are also going to create a variable for the index. We're going to create a variable for the index to keep track of the index value. Currently, what is the index now? Index 2, index 3. So we need to have a variable that holds the value of the current index and allows us to manipulate with the index. So we need to have another variable. So this one, we name it as index. This is variable is number. So we can initialize it to integer. So that comes under math. So that is a block which is 0. So you assign it to 0. Everyone okay? Able to do up to this point? So after we have, when we actually open the info screen opens, it will show whatever items, image, tag, the place, and also the description, right? After that, what we want to do is that we want to make sure that we capture all the list, the IDs, all the IDs in that particular sheet to this empty list, which is the ID list, this one. We want to add everything to this ID list. So we can use under variable, we can use the set. So put it here. Currently it is showing app variable place ID. This is important, make sure that you set to the right variable. So this one currently we want to set the Apple variable ID list. What we want to do, we want to capture all the ID, all the row IDs, right? So you're talking about capturing all the rows ID, so we have to use the data source. So from data source, there is a block where you're able to get all the list of values. This one, all the list of values. So take of this and put it here. So what we're going to get, we want to get the list of values in unit and places in sheet 1. Now this one is ID. Surprisingly, when you click on drop down, do you see that's ID? This is not something that we have created. We didn't create that. We didn't create that header, but there's an ID. So this, using this function to get this list of values, allows us to capture all those ID. So we're going to select ID. So what happens when this particular block is executed? All the rows, how many rows you have, 3 or 5, all the rows IDs now will be stored into the variable list. So you'll have all the, yes. Uh-huh. Start from 0, where? Oh, sorry, sorry. Yeah, thank you. This one I have to initialize to 1. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, the index in Thunkable starts from 1. Thank you. We have to initialize this to 1 because that is the starting index that you have. Okay, so we have actually have this. Now this part actually captures. So that means when the screen opens, what are the things you do? First thing, you change the image, you change the place label, you change the place label description, and then you get all the row IDs. This is what happens when the page opens. Itself, it does all this function. Now, of course, we have the home button, which you click, you're able to go to home. Now we also want to have the next button, right? So let me just move this side. So you can see the next button is click. So click on next button, this next button is click. So take and put it here. So when the next button is click, what we want to actually do is we want to try to identify from that list, which index does this row ID belong to. Just now remember we have copied all the last block, it copies all the row IDs here. Now I could click in row ID 1, 2 or 3, right? I don't know. But now we need to find out where, which is the ID. So we want to set our variable index to that particular row ID. So let's go to variable. We're going to set index, the variable index to. So there is an option to identify in a list what is the occurrence of an item. So if you go under the list, there is an option, yes, in list, find the occurrence of an item. That means you already have this list. You want to actually try to find out which ID is actually matching. So you drag and drop this, put it here in the list, but in which list? This one we can remove and throw this one. In which list that we want to actually refer to? Where have we stored all our IDs? ID list variable, very good. So we go to variable, you already will be seeing that there is an app variable ID list. So in this app variable ID list, you want to try to find the first occurrence of a particular item. So what is the item now that we are actually looking for? That we are trying to search, try to match? The index we are trying to find, which index? But what we are using the reference value, not 0. Now what we are trying to do is, when we actually, this now we have already copied all the row IDs into a variable which is known as ID list, right? So now this is ID list. We want to try to find out what is the index of the particular row ID that you clicked earlier, right? So where is the information of the row ID? In which variable? Sorry? ID list contains the entire ID, right? Or how has this? The earlier page you clicked, variable index is this one, is we are trying to keep that index, variable index. Yes, place ID. Very good. In the previous page, when you click a particular item, that item's row ID will be stored in the place ID variable, right? It's a single row. What are you trying to find out? Is it this one? Is it this one? Or is it this one? So you're trying to find first occurrence, which is in the place ID. So of item, place ID. So, are you able to follow? In the previous page, when you click a particular item, that is the place ID, right? This one. You see all these three blocks is actually displaying the image, place description, and also the place of this particular ID, specific ID. Now, when you want to click the next button, you want to go to the next item, right? But first and foremost, you need to find out. We have also copied all the three row IDs here. This one, this block, right? This last block. We have copied all the IDs. So when you want to click next, the place ID, you need to find out which index is it. So that's why you're using the place ID to check, is it index 1, index 2, or index 3. So you want to set your variable index to that particular value. If, let's say, for example, the place ID is row ID 2, it will set your index to become 2. Understand? That's what it's doing. So this line is actually identifying what is the index. Now when you want to go next, what do you want to do? You want to have the index plus 1, right? Then only you can go to the next ID. So we can use the set variable index. Now we want to add 1, because now what we're doing, the first one is we try to identify what is the index of that place ID of the row that you have selected. Now when you click next, it should go to the next in that list. So we're going to use the index value to manipulate, go next, like that. So that is a math function. So we can go math. So there is a plus here. So what we want to plus with 1? Index value. So you take the app variable index, put it here. So you want to set the app variable index to, what is the new value? The current app variable index plus 1. So whatever the index is, it will plus 1. Now there is also an issue here, right? What is the issue? Sorry? Sorry, I can't hear. Have to navigate to the next? No, not the next page. The issue here, when you keep on adding 1, what is the issue here? Sorry? Yes, we only have 3. If you keep on adding, your index only have only 3. If you keep on add index 4, there is no item. So there should be a condition to check whether have you reached to the maximum or not. So we need to, yes, we have to use the if. So that comes under control. So you can actually set a if function here. So we want to check. If you have exceeded the index that is currently available, then you want to reset it back to index 1. So that means you can keep on clicking next, it'll go, you finish already, it'll start back from the first one. Got the idea? So here what you want to check, we want to actually check whether is the current index value exceeded the maximum value or not. So this is operation, something known as comparing, right? So it comes under logic. So you can see this one, you can check if it's larger than. So if, what is it that you want to check? Yes, variable index. App variable index, if it's larger than. Now this here there is a function that Of course, here you know that there is 3 because you are created that. But that's not a very good way of you to do. You don't simply put larger than 3. Then you're limiting your app to just your maximum is 3. What if later you want to add more? It will follow your spreadsheet, right? Whatever you edit your spreadsheet, your app will, according to the data list, will become longer. So the best thing is there is a function known as getting the length. So let's see under the, this one. That's a length of. So what is this length of? Length, it returns the length of a list. So if you have 3 lists, it returns 3. It'll tell you what is the length of the list. So that is the advantage of using the length. So you're not going to use this. What is the length that you're actually going to look for? Yes, very good. ID list. Because ID list contains all we actually copied everything into our ID list, right? So it is under our variable ID list. If it is exceeded, what do you want to do with the index? You want to make it what? Make it? Why you want to stop? Yes, you want to make it 1 back. If it exceeded 3, you want to start back, right? So make it 1. So you are going to set the variable. What is the variable that you want to set? The index. You want to set it back to 1. So I can just copy here. Set it back to 1. Okay so far? Now this is just a condition to handle the part when you exceed it. But still we have not done the part to display all those things, right? The next one. So now this part, it actually captures the next index already, right? For that next index, you have to get that index row ID, right? That's what we actually want to do. So now under the variable, you want to set place ID. Earlier place ID you already showed already. Now when you click next, you want to get the next index row ID. And you want to capture this and you want to put it into the place ID variable. Why? Because the displaying block is using the place ID variable, right? So that's why you need to change. So here you want to change under the list. Under the list, you can actually use in list get. This one. So all these functions are associated with the list. Currently we are dealing with the variable list, right? So you can actually use this. So in the list, which list are we looking in this one? Can throw. Which list are we looking into now to get the place ID? In which list are we looking for the place ID? ID list, very good. So in the ID list variable, we want to get which number? 1. Which variable holds the index value? Not place ID. Index, yeah, yes, index. Remember we just changed here what? The app variable index plus 1, right? So it's in variable index. So what is it doing? This line. You are now setting the variable place ID to a new value, which is in that app variable ID list. This one. ID list that we have copied all the 3 ID lists. Get number index. Just now whatever the previous row ID index, let's say if the previous row ID index is 2, then you have the app index plus 1, right? So the index now becomes 3. So in the list, in this ID list, get number 3. So you'll go to index number 3. It will take that row ID and it'll store into the place ID. And what you have to do after this? You have to change back all this. Basically, you have to copy all these 3 blocks. 1, 2, 3. So this whole block, if you duplicate, oops, sorry, space. Set picture. Why is this one error? Shade 1, place ID. Let me see this one error. I don't know why. Are you getting the error for the place image? So why is there an error for the place image? It's very funny. Why having this place image? Save place image. To data source. Get. Okay, if I didn't, oh, now I got two errors. Where's the two error come from? Oh, this one. Right here, right here. Okay, if I didn't duplicate, then there's no error. I just create back a new one. So only for the place image, not sure why it's actually creating error, but if you don't do that, let's try now. You're supposed to take attendance. So I'll stop the recording. And I did back, make sure whenever you do back, make sure you keep that image properly image. So image, place and description. So now actually when you do that, then if you click next, it'll show all the pictures and it'll start rotating back. So mine's actually working.